back to my channel. My name is Reese and I'm so happy that you clicked on this video. If you clicked on this video, you better hold on to your edges, hold on to everything that's around you, because we're going to be talking about some things that I don't think is talked about enough. But before I get into that, if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for clicking on this video. Please hit subscribe and that bell notification to be notified whenever I drop a new upload. So, this video is the start of a new series for me. I just recently redid the purpose of my channel, which is faith, lifestyle, and travel. And so I am a physician associate. I do practice psychiatry, and I will be talking about a little bit of medicine here and there sometimes. But I feel like the Lord has told me to use my platform for this, and this kind of takes precedence over everything else. So I feel like this is truly my calling, and I want to share that with you. As a millennial, as a 90s baby, okay, and growing up being called the millennial, there's not a lot of us out there that are posting videos about following God. You know, you can find videos on hair for days on YouTube. You can find videos on nails, on home projects, on, filming, on photography. Anything you pretty much look up on YouTube, you can find you a video to correspond with whatever you're trying to find. But when I looked up, millennials talking about intimacy with God and what that looks like, I couldn't find a thing. And it wasn't until I started going to, the Woman Evolve conference. So I love me some Sarah Jakes Roberts. I'm part of the delegation. If you're part of the delegation, what's up? If you went to Woman Evolve 21 Exhale, then you already know what I'm about to say. That whole conference was a blessing, okay? We talked about some things. 2020, I was there virtually. I prayed about one day being able to go in person and be a part of that. And God made it happen. And it just so happened the same year I moved to Dallas, or move outside of Dallas in the suburbs, she comes. And I'm like, oh my God, this might be my only opportunity to see the Sarah Jakes. But it's more than just seeing her. And it's more about how I view her in my head as my best friend, as my sister, as one of my homegirls. It's about her anointing that she carries with her, and the fact that she said yes to what God wanted her to do. And even though some of the things that God has her doing was things she could have never thought that she would be doing or see herself doing, she's doing it, and she's doing a great job, a wonderful job, and bringing so many people to Christ. People like me, people like you. And so it was something that was said at the conference. So first of all, let me tell you, the house was packed, okay? Even though we were socially distancing, we had rows in between the rows and seats in between the seats. And if you came with somebody, you sat with that person. And we had colored lanyards to tell you if it was okay to get close to us, or if we wanted to be hugged, or we wanted to do patty cake or not. And so at the beginning of the conference, day one, I met this young lady named Ayana. She is a mother of 3. She is a salon owner. She is a believer and a beautiful person. And she is also a millennial. And so I got joined up with her, and then I met another girl. Her name is Paige. By the way, she has a YouTube called The Paige Patton. Go check her out. But she is a believer. She just uprooted everything she had, moved to Oklahoma, and then came to the conference with nothing but God, but relying on God. But she just knew that she had to be in the building, so she even volunteered for that event. And my best friend put me in contact with her. So I'm putting them in contact, Ayana and Paige, together, and they're actually going to be on the channel talking about their relationship with God, how it got started, and intimacy. And by the way, next season on my podcast, I have both of them doing interviews and talking about their resilience, because I'm all about resilience. So I'm so excited for that as well. But I think that this is a divine purpose. Like God had all of this lined up and planned out before we even knew anything about it. And the crazy part is we all feel the same about each other while we're in each other's lives, and we agree with everything, and we're all kind of on one accord. Like I have a YouTube channel and a podcast. Paige has a YouTube channel. She's just getting started. Ayana is a salon owner and a believer, but she's trying to get and make her own show up in the world for God the way that God is telling her to fulfill her purpose. So whether that be leading prayer calls during the week or whatever that may look like, but it's just a simple fact that I'm getting her started. I asked her to be on the podcast, and then right after that, I felt like God was telling me, since there is no videos on YouTube talking about millennials and intimacy with God and what that looks like, then I'm going to make it. And so we all got together and was like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get on YouTube together and just talk about the goodness of God and how he's moving in our lives and what he's doing for us. Now, does that mean either one of us are perfect? No. Does that mean we still listen to R&B and hip hop and all this other stuff? Y'all did hear the part where we are millennials, right? And y'all do know that everything don't change all at once, right? Right. Okay. I'm just checking with you. I'm just checking. Okay. So today will be the first. I said all that to say today will be the first video, and I'm going to be talking about intimacy. And so I know you can't tell, but I am a little nervous. And yes, this is like my 100th video. I've been doing this. I've been in front of cameras, but it's something about this. And I'm not nervous because you're watching. I'm nervous because of what's going to come from this. I'm a good nervous, if that makes sense, because I know I'm being obedient. And even if only one person watches this video, I hope it's a blessing to you. So let's start with, what is the definition of intimacy? And the definition of intimacy is close familiarity or friendship, closeness. That's one. Another definition said private, cozy atmosphere. Okay. So when I think about having intimacy with God, I think about, I don't know why, but I think about us sitting together on a bench in a park. And I'm just telling him all about my day. And he's just sitting there with his hands kind of together and looking at me. And he's just listening to me ramble on and on and on and on. And no matter how long I talk, no matter what emotion came up, he was just present. He was just there. He was just sitting with me on a bench in a park. I don't know why I visualize that when I think about intimacy with God, but that's what I visualize for me. And that's a first. So when I was at the conference and Toure, Sarah's husband, got up and he preached his sermon on worship and how worship is intimacy with God, I was like, hold up. We can be intimate with God. We can be intimate with God. And then he went on to describe, well, what is worship? He was like, when you're singing songs and all that, that's praise. But he was like, what about worship? Worship is when you're in your alone time. Worship is when you're in your quiet place with God in your prayer closet. Worship is when it's coming from the heart deep in here. And he's like, to know the Holy Spirit is intimacy as well. It's the most intimate that you can get with God is worship. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? I was grouping all this time. I had been grouping praise and worship together. And I thought when I'm praising, I am then also worshiping. But what was going on is that my praise was superficial. So my worship, I wasn't even digging deep enough to even hit worship. So all that, when you feel the goosebumps, when you can feel the spirit and all that, even though you can feel and you're praising and you're singing your heart out, it's a difference when it comes to worship. I think worship, your heart posture has to be right. I feel like when you worship, you have to have your mind set on him, not about what you're going to cook when you get home or how much you love the song you're singing. You're singing it because you believe what you're singing, and you're singing it because you love God just that much. And when I thought about that, I was like, I don't think I ever worshiped God. And here I am. I was baptized at 6, and so I got rebaptized maybe like 4 years ago, right when I was in PA school. If y'all didn't know me then, please look it up. Like, I had cut off all of my hair. I got out of a bad relationship, and I was like, I'm starting over. And I loved my short haircut, guys. Oh my God, I love the short hair, but I don't think I could do it again. But anyway, rewind. I was going to New Spring in Florence, South Carolina at the time, and I wanted to rededicate my life, so I got rebaptized, okay? But how many people know, like, right after you get baptized, it's just like whatever you thought couldn't happen or wouldn't happen or shouldn't happen happens. So like the devil, is like you got a personal target on your back when you join forces for the greater good, when you like, okay, I'm with God, I'm not with the devil. But then the devil's like, oh yeah, and throw everything at you. Like, people from your past all of a sudden start messaging you, texting you, calling you. You ain't hear from them in years, like ex-boyfriends, like people just wanting to come and mess things up, and you just know it's nothing but the devil, because they wasn't worried about you before, but then all of a sudden you rededicate your life and they want to reach out to you. Isn't it a coincidence? So I had to be vigilant with that. I wasn't rude to anybody that reached out to me, but right after, like, I talked to them or whatever and kind of shut down whatever they thought they were doing, they kind of went away. And then the next thing came. So then I had car trouble, and I mean, so forth and so forth and so forth. And the devil's just trying to see, okay, is she really for God? Let me play her. Because even the serpent in the garden said, well, did he really say? And so the devil be making me feel like, oh, but are you really blank? And so for me, it was like, are you really good enough to receive the love of God? Are you really good enough to be a child of God? Because you're not acting like one. You're not holier than thou. Your life is not together. You're not perfect, in other words. So God is going to reject you. So you might as well go out and go to the club, go out and be with this person, do this activity, because you only live once, right? And you don't want to waste your life. And since, God not going to claim you anyway because you're not perfect, you might as well live the way you want to live. And lo and behold, I fell right back into old habits. It took me a while to get back on. And once I got back on, I would say once I moved to Virginia, once I was in Roanoke, I was all alone. I had no friends. I had no family, and I had nothing to do. I felt like Roanoke was a place people go to retire. It's beautiful to look at the mountains. You can get ice cream. You can eat yourself to death. You can go to the movies. You can go to the mall, but that was about it. And so I felt like I was drowning, because anybody that knows me, I'm from New Jersey, and then I relocated to South Carolina. So, like, I love to go. I love to get up and go. There's always something going on. I'm an outgoing person. Sitting around is not a part of my personality, but God had to have a season. And I call this my wilderness moment, where he had to sit me down and change my perspective and my focus on the things that I needed to be focused on as a new provider in my role, me starting my career, and me being an adult in my first very own place outside of college, away from my mom. Who am I as an adult? And so I had to kind of pull away from who I was before and kind of remold my mind and my perspective to who I was in this season. Then once I got that straight, and I was okay with, instead of forcing things to be a certain way and to get me to go to Texas and all this other stuff, I was just like, God, whenever you're ready for me to go to Texas, I will go. Until then, I will sit right here in Virginia, and I will be thankful for the job that I get to do, and I will be thankful for the friends that I made here, and I will see the best in every situation. As soon as I let go, as soon as I took my hand off of it, God sent me to Texas, and that's how I got here in May, and you guys know the rest of the story. Well, when I went to Sarah's conference, it's 4 things that Toure said in his sermon that really hit me, and I wrote it down in my phone, but I also wrote it down in this book so I could say it to you. The first type of intimacy is emotional, intellectual, exponential, and spiritual. And of course, we're talking about spiritual here. Pastor Toure said, worship is spiritual intimacy with God. And there are 4 things that you have to do to be in intimacy with God. And the first thing is you have to have humility. There is nobody you can come in here with pride, holier than thou, I am holier than you, I'm better than you, I'm more perfect than you are, so therefore I deserve to sit at the right hand of God. But first of all, know that it's nothing you did to earn this love, this grace, this mercy. You have it because of the love that God has for you. And I don't know about anybody else watching this video, but there's a series called The Chosen, and I just found out that they were filming in Texas, so I'm like, But anyway, The Chosen is free. You can download the app. You can watch it on Tubi, Tubi. If you have a smart TV, you probably find it on the Fire Stick too. But it's free, so there's no need. You can literally watch it on your phone and cast it to the TV. But it tells the life of Jesus, and it shows his character in a way I've never seen it. I never saw it like that before. People read about Jesus and how much he loves us and all this, and you think you get it, but it's just something about watching The Chosen that kind of opened my eyes even more to actually visualize him as a human being instead of this being that's greater and powerful that I can't see. And that was keeping me from my intimacy with God, thinking that he was this big loud voice that was not visible. I couldn't touch it or interact with it. I'm here on earth. God is up there in the clouds somewhere, and there's no way I can connect with him because he's not relatable, until I started watching The Chosen. And The Chosen made me feel like, okay, God was a human. He joked. He loved most of all. And he cared about us, and he went through everything he went through. And it shows not only God, but all of his disciples, the personality of Peter. I mean, it's very well thought out and very well acted, and I love it. And I'm watching the 2nd season. I'm on the 2nd episode. They also have a Christmas episode coming out as well. But it wasn't until I saw that I actually finally thought, sorry, I'm shaking the screen, guys, because I'm getting excited. But it's not until then that I actually saw that God is my friend. God loves me. And not only that, he is my Father. And I saw, like, it's a scene in The Chosen where Nicodemus kind of bows down, and he said something like, and I'm paraphrasing, like, you are the Son of God, and this ground that I stand on is holy ground. And he goes to bend down, and the Lord said, like, I don't need all that. He said, what I need you to do is go to the temple and tell people, I need you to follow me. But I don't think Nicodemus did, but he knew that he was the Son of God. And I always hear about Nicodemus and how he was like the teacher and the rabbi before God got there, and how he kind of learned that God was the real deal. Didn't really get that until I saw it on The Chosen. But it's like how humble he is, how lovely he is, how beautiful he is, how sweet he is. Like, there's not many adjectives, how faithful he is. I mean, even in the story, they did such a good job at, like, So there was this scene that I just got through watching. Sorry guys, if you haven't watched it, please go watch it. But it's one scene that I saw in the first episode, second season, where they went to somebody's house and God is like standing in the back. Jesus is standing all the way in the back. Peter and them all the way up here by the door, and Jesus is standing in the back. And the person who answered the door, they was like, "Where is Jesus?" And Jesus like, "Here I am." Who does that? What Father, what God do you know that is powerful enough to destroy or to make anything at the sound of his voice move, shake, rebuild, speak, come to life, die, raise up from life? I mean, just all the things he can do. He's all power in his hands. And he's standing all the way over here. The door's right here. And everybody else is right here. And he's all the way in the back. He didn't mind being humble. So I really do think humility is very much needed when you're trying to be intimate with God. The next thing is focus. It wasn't this sermon that I heard from Toure. It was the sermon I heard recently. He preached at his church in one LA, and he said, I forgot the story, I forgot the passage, but he was saying that God, before he healed somebody or whatnot, and they do this even in The Chosen, he looks up and then he breathes and then he heals. And then Toure said, "Do you know why he looks up?" And he was like, "Because he's looking for that connect with his Father. He's looking up to God. He's, connecting with him, meditating, getting his mind right, and then he heals." And I thought that was so cool. Even in The Chosen, in this movie that, is being crowdfunded. People are donating money for people to continue this series. They have over 10,000 or is it $10 million just by crowdfunding, people sending money in, and they can fund the whole thing. And I mean, everybody, it must be hitting everybody the same like it's hitting me. And even in there, when he was healing the blind man, healing the paralytic, healing the man's leg who was crippled or whatnot, he looked up, he breathed, and then he healed. And I just thought it was something. It was a coincidence, but that goes in line with humility, and that goes in line with focus. Openness. So I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll be like, "Oh no, I ain't going to tell God that," because that's just a little bit too personal. So, what can I tell God that sounds good? What can I tell God that sounds like it came from a preacher? What can I tell God that would just woo him over? Like he ain't listening to me right now. Like he can't read my thoughts. Like he can't see me. Like he don't know what I'm doing. He is everywhere. He is the air that I breathe in. He's already in my mind. He know my mind before I even think the thoughts I thought I was going to think that he don't know about. He already know. So really, we're being kind of, I don't want to say dumb, but it's the only word that's coming to my mind right now. So we don't want to be dumb because sorry, Lord, but he already know our thoughts. So he already know what you're going to say before you try to sweet talk, sugarcoat your prayers or whatever. He already know that you just did XYZ last night, but you up in church today. And then when Monday come, you right back at it again. And he still loves you anyway. Isn't that the beautiful thing about salvation, about grace, about mercy? He still loves you anyway, and there's nothing you can do about it, and there's nothing you could do to ever lose his love. Whew! Yes, Lord. And the fourth thing and the final thing is surrender. So I think that it's very important to surrender, and I only say that because I'm a very strong-willed person. If I see something, I'm going to come up with a plan, and I'm going to go get it. And it always works in my might. But baby, I didn't get the Texas in my might. I got the Texas from God. I waited on God. I was patient. Matter of fact, Wait on the Lord, Maverick City. I've been listening to that song forever. But now that is my testimony because I did wait on the Lord. When I was being at my other job and they were saying racial things to me and not any of my superior people, but, colleagues, or they were making indirect or microaggressions and things like that. I felt so defeated, and I felt like I was stuck, and I felt like I couldn't say nothing because that would be unprofessional, and I couldn't leave because I had no other options. And I never leave a job without a job. But when God finally gave me the right of way to leave, I was just like, you sure? And then when the opportunity came along, I was out the door. But I had to be patient. And by patient, guys, I mean 2 years. I had to wait for 2 years. I had to put up with that place. I'm not talking about my job. I'm talking about the overall place for 2 years. The atmosphere, every time you go outside, you go to the store, you go to the mall, you go to anywhere. You saw Confederate flags everywhere. Like, I had to deal with all of that. But no matter what, I was still humble. I was still nice. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Smiling, treating my patients with kindness, respect. I did the best I could do. Sometimes I feel like I overcompensated and went above and beyond, because I thought if I tried extra hard, then they would one day like me. And even if the rest of the people in the town didn't, because of my skin color, at least where I work, the people would like me and it would feel like home. A year later, still didn't feel like home. Another year went by. Forget it. I was just fed up, and I wasn't patient, and I was getting frustrated. And I was like, Lord, I know patience is a virtue, but I'm so tired of being here. I don't feel appreciated. I would cry. I sat in my car during lunchtime and I would cry. I would, on the weekend, sit in the house, and sometimes I would cry. I really would. But that's over. God made a way. God made a way. So one of the quotes, humility, focus, openness, and surrender. Those are the 4 things that you have to do to have worship with God. And then as I'm ending, because we're about to hit the 30-minute mark, so I'm about to wrap it up. Silence is protection of your insecurity and rejection of faith. They said this at the Woman Evolve conference, and I thought, wow, not to sit here and say anything. Sometimes you to be like, okay, I'm not going to embarrass myself, so I'm going to just be quiet. But they were like, if you're sitting through this conference and you're not worshiping God, you're not praising God, you're not thankful, you are protecting your insecurities and you are rejecting faith. And I was just like, wow. Even in the moments when I don't feel like speaking up and the Lord told me to say something or do something, I feel insecure because I'm not smart enough to say this in this room. But what I had to realize was God ordained me to be in the room. And if he ordained me to be in the room, then anything that I have to say, I already have the power to go ahead and say whatever it is that I have to say. So I shouldn't have to bite my tongue. But for the longest time I was, because I was like, I'm not qualified to say that. I'm not ranked high enough to say that, blah, 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 whatever excuse. And I'm just like, at this point, nah, I'm going to say what I need to say because it needs to be said. But yeah, silence is protection of your insecurity and rejection of faith. If you don't remember anything else from this, remember worship is spiritual intimacy with God, and silence is protection of your insecurity and rejection of faith. And the last quote that I'm going to say is, fear will steal from you. And then we're not talking about the action, we're talking from the emotion. So guys, remember you are a child of God. Who shall you fear? You shouldn't fear anyone. Nothing. And so leaving this video, I hope that you learn the difference between praise and worship, and what worship is, what praise is. Praise is still great, but worship is digging even deeper. And I hope that going into 2022, you spend more time worshiping God and getting to know him and getting close to him and sitting on a bench with him in a park like I will be. And one of the things I want to tell you guys real quick, and then I'll end the video because we're almost to 30 minutes, is I will be coming out with a journal next year that will help you with your intimacy with God. It's going to help me, it's going to help you, and we're going to do it together. And so it's going to be called, you guessed it, Intimacy Journal. And I hope to have at least my proofs back at the beginning of January or at some point in January, so that I can start selling this book. And I just want everybody to have a safe place to write down the scripture that they're studying, but also how they interpret the scripture, and then what God is saying to you. But what are you thinking about? What is your anxiety? What is your fear? What is your worry? And then I want you to pray about it and let it go. And at the bottom of each page, I have a little quote to keep you motivated for the day. And I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. And I also will be coming out with merch. So this is a whole new chapter for me, a whole new experience for me. And I hope you guys stick around and come with me on this journey. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace.